The appointed time has arrived on this warm Wednesday, and thanks for all of you for, I'm David Lough, President of DSCA. Thanks all of you. This is a nice turnout in the middle of summer. As you know, DSCA meets every month, so we're just pleased to keep going and glad to see you all. First, I wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Ann Cox for being with us. Thank you, Jen. You're wonderful for being here, and I anticipate the mayor if she stays on schedule. So, pardon?
She's leaving at 5.
I have to leave.
She's leaving at
But she has to leave. Okay. All right. We'll try and get to it. So, yeah. Welcome to everybody. I see some new faces that maybe I haven't met in the course of the meeting. I hope we're able to do that. And welcome to the people on Zoom. So with that said, first of all, apologies on the minutes and getting those out. And that's one of the things I need to be better at. So I know it was late, but we got the minutes out there for you to review. And I apologize for fumbling some of that. So with that said, let's get started. I mean, first to establish a quorum, I think Judy is not here, but I think we
Yeah, 8 out of 10 on
eight
out of 10 at the table.
eight and Peter's
9.
yeah.
Quick long.
And do we want to hit that button, Patrick? Unmute? Or how do we want to do that?
Got it. Unmute.
Okay, so welcome everybody, and we've got a quorum established. With that said, on the minutes, were there any comments on those as circulated late? Were there any comments or edits on that? If not,
Make a motion to accept.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ken Sheelan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously approved. With that said, Clark, what do you have for us number-wise?
We have $6,705.06 Seacoast checking account.
Okay, and we're getting some new members
And I'm still
along.
waiting for Robin Parsons' second quarter bill.
Okay,
So
okay.
hopefully that won't wipe out what's
Okay, we're going to have some inflows on that too. So, okay, thanks for that. That said, Jamie, would you like to make an introduction and why we're having Jim? We're really pleased to have him.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion lately about legislative updates, and we thought this was very timely to have James Turf from Hill Tannenbaum to come and discuss some of the latest changes that might be of interest to us.
Hopefully this lapel mic works and everybody can hear me. And oh, dear Lord, don't put up pictures of me. Yeah, I'm just going to talk very briefly about House Bill 913, which was just signed into law. It became effective July 1st. So all of these, all of the laws I'm going to talk about today are already in effect. There's a handout on the back table that has a more comprehensive list. I have a brief amount of time, so I'm just going to try to hit some of the highlights. Please let me know when I need to shut up, and I will. The first thing I want to talk about for condominiums as one of the most important things today is going to be that video conference meetings are now permitted by statute. Any sort of meeting that your condominium association conducts can now include a video conference element. So that's going to be board meetings, member meetings, budget meetings, annual meetings. For any meeting that is going to include the video conference component, your notice is going to have to provide a link for the meeting, a call-in number for the meeting, in addition, that somebody can just use a telephone to call in with, and a physical location. So while you can use the video component, you have to have a physical location available as well. It may be that there is only one director, one responsible homeowner in there with a laptop and a camera, but a physical location actually has to be available. In addition to allowing video conference meetings, now they have to be recorded as well, which is particularly easy with Zoom. With Zoom, all you have to do is click a box and it will automatically record and save the video of your meetings. They become official records of the association and have to be maintained for 1 year from the date of the meeting. So where most of your documents are, they're going to be 7 years or things like that. Your video recordings only have to be retained for a year because storing video online is expensive and bulky. So they're trying to catch you something of a break there. As it's written, the law actually technically requires that even closed meetings be recorded. That would be meetings with your attorney to discuss litigation or closed meetings to discuss personnel decisions for your association. While those meetings technically need to be recorded, they're unlikely to ever be made publicly available to one of your members. Technically, communications with your attorney can eventually lose privilege. Once the peril is gone away, once the case is done, all appeals are exhausted and everything is done, your attorney communications do become official records of the association. If that happens within a year of the meeting, theoretically an owner could request a copy of that video as part of an official records request. It's unlikely. Personnel decisions are never intended to be released to the membership. So the statute I think was written in error. I don't think it intended for it to apply to closed meetings, but as it does, if you're doing a video closed meeting, record it at least.
Sorry, does video include audio only?
No, video is, and in fact, video conference has a very specific and apt definition as you ask that question. Video conferencing is real-time audio and video-based meetings between 2 or more people in different locations using video-enabled and audio-enabled devices. So you don't have to record purely telephonic meetings. You don't have to record in-person meetings. You certainly can, but only this statute update only applies to Zoom or Teams or some other similar sort of scenario. Accordingly, official records, the definition of official records for condominiums have been expanded as well. They obviously now include the video recordings of these meetings. They also now specifically include bank statements. Previously, there was a catch-all provision, and of course, financials, things like that are always considered official records of your association. So your bank statements probably already were, but now they're explicitly listed in the statute, and bank statements are official records that an owner can request. Technically, that law only became effective July 1st, so there might be some wiggle room if your association didn't necessarily maintain its bank statements from 6-7 years ago. You might be able to get away with saying, oh, they don't exist because we didn't know we had to keep them. Not a great defense. And so even if an owner asks today for records going back 5 years, if you have them, produce them. Official records also now include permits, affidavits, board education certificates, and milestone and structural integrity reserve studies. So all of those things probably should already have been maintained by your association as official records, because the official record statute includes a line that says any other document that the association relies on to do business. That's going to be most of those things. But now, of course, they are explicitly listed, so please ensure that you're doing that. The law has been updated to say that condominiums of 150 units or more must post their minutes, budgets, financial, all the stuff they have to keep on their website. They have to have it up within 30 days of creation or receipt. That's now also going to include videos of video component board meetings or membership meetings. You have to have a link or the actual video on your webpage within 30 days of the meeting having taken place. For your annual meeting only, so all of your other meetings, Zoom is easy, it's fine, but for the annual meeting only, if it is going to be conducted via video conference, at least a quorum of the directors must be present at the physical location. For you directors who have holiday plans with annual meetings in December, November, plan accordingly. If you do not have a quorum of directors present in person at your annual meeting, it may not attain a quorum. Your election might still go forward if you meet those requirements, but any other business you need to conduct at your annual meeting may not be effective if you don't have a quorum of directors present at the physical location for the meeting. The other really big change that I want to make sure everybody knows about is electronic voting. This is the one that's going to affect everybody whether you like it or not. And it's a very poorly written statute, in my opinion, that's probably going to create more problems than it solves. The easy part is the law now says if at least 25% of the total membership petition for it, the board must enact electronic voting. So if 25% of the membership get together, write a petition, submit it to the board, The board must hold a meeting within 21 days after receipt of the petition to adopt a resolution enacting electronic voting. I suggest you adopt electronic voting anyway, as long as you're an association of any significant size. It solves headaches. My preferred vendors get quorum. You can use anyone you like. I just like them. I know them. I've done some presentations with them. They're good folk. They do everything from the resolution to enact electronic voting. They will help you with the meeting notices, the agendas. They will count the ballots. They will help with in-person ballot counting. They do just take all of the work out of elections and votes. So I suggest you think about adopting one if you haven't already. But that said, even if your membership doesn't make that petition, doesn't demand that you enact electronic voting, and you otherwise haven't done it, the law now says that an association must designate an email address for receipt of e-ballots. So as of July 1st, I'm hoping you all generated an email address to receive electronic ballots, at least for your elections. It has to have your email address, and any owner is entitled to vote via e-ballot by sending an email to that address. It's going to have some language that's stated in the statute. Doesn't make sense for me to try to give it to you all right now, but basically the owner has to say, this is who I am, this is my unit, here's a statement about how I'm waiving all my secrecy protections that I would normally be entitled to if I voted through the regular mechanism. And that's really where the statutory guidance stops on what that ballot looks like. It doesn't tell us how the owner is supposed to express their intent to vote, and it would depend on your election, so there's some vagueness there. But ostensibly, they then write in their candidates, or they rank their candidates, or whatever voting mechanism you have, and they email it specifically to that address. It has to be submitted by the time the meeting starts at which the vote would be conducted. So at the start of that meeting, a director or potentially your CAM is going to go into that email account. They're going to check every folder, the spam folder, the inbox, whatever. They're going to count, they're going to find all the ballots that comply. So yeah, now your directors or your CAM is going to have some obligation to know what a compliant ballot looks like, even though the statute's not particularly clear about what that looks like. And then they're going to have to count those along with any other votes that were received via whatever other method you have in place. So that'll be a lot of fun. There are going to be issues with people not checking the right folders. Once the folders are checked, by the way, the director or CAM, whoever checked that email account, has to swear out an affidavit under penalty of perjury saying that we did in fact check all of these folders and do all of that fun stuff. And once that affidavit is signed, there's a presumption that they really did do it. But yeah, there's going to be questions about what a compliant ballot looks like. There's going to be questions about timing. Is it right as the meeting is called to order that we stop accepting ballots? Is there an agenda item that we say ballots, the deadline now is 5 minutes after the meeting starts? We don't know. And quite frankly, we're not going to have a lot of those answers until somebody has an election that's challenged for the next 2 years while they fight about it in court. So know that it's there, be prepared to handle it, and hopefully owners don't figure it out and try to vote this way, because quite frankly, it's going to be a lot of problem, I think. Maybe you'll get lucky and it'll be easy. There's also a question about whether this applies only to elections or whether this is any votable issue. The phrasing of the statute would indicate definitely for elections. They use the term ballot, electronic ballot. They say that a lot. But the statute in general talks about all sort of e-voting. So whether this is also acceptable method of voting for amendments to your declaration or other sort of board member votes, we're not sure. And again, that may be something that you decide as a board as the time comes up. And it might just be a question that comes up when an owner tries to vote via this method. And you get surprised by it and have to figure out what to do. I'm not going to give you specific advice on that and suggest instead that you contact your individual lawyers as that situation arises, and their malpractice insurance can be on the line. So let's see what else I have. Milestone inspections have undergone some changes as well. Anybody, I'm assuming most of you in here are probably subject to the milestone or structural integrity reserve, mandatory reserve accounts. So we've added the word habitable back into the definition of stories now. So for associations to be subject to milestone inspections or structural integrity reserve studies, they have to be at least 3 habitable stories or taller. So 4-story condo, first 2 floors are parking garages, the next 2 floors are habitable. You may not really be subject to the statute under this. This is actually what the definition was when the law was first passed. It was then changed to be something sort of vague that says Well, it's going to be determined by your local municipal building department. So now it's habitable, which we had opinions about that back after this bill was first enacted. And we know it doesn't include parking garage spaces, but you may need to direct more specific questions to either your engineer, your SERS analyst, or your own counsel to figure out if it applies to you, if there is any doubt. Budgets. For any budget that exceeds 115% of your previous year's budget, the board must simultaneously propose a substitute budget that does not include any discretionary expenditures that are not required to be in the budget. So basically, you're going to present your members with your big budget that includes everything. It's all of your desired goals as well as all your mandatory expenses. It's going to be large. At the same time, you're going to present an alternate budget that strips out anything that you don't need to do. That's going to be anything aside from mandatory repairs, mandatory maintenance, anything that you can strip out that's voluntary or desirable but not otherwise required. And you do that, and the membership will then determine which budget to enact. An important note is that you do not count mandatory reserves in calculating the 115%. So if your mandatory reserve account, take those reserves out of that math to figure out if your budget is exceeding 115%, because they're not going to make you do this if you're undergoing necessary structural repairs. There was a SERS, there was a trick to the SERS law that said your SERS analyst could add items to your SERS report based on whether they've discovered an item that needs to be maintained by the association that will be periodically repaired at a certain time. So previously, if a SERS inspector saw that you had a structurally attached carport, for example, we've had that come up. They said, well, the association has to maintain it. It's structural, and it's going to cost more than $10,000 to repair or replace when necessary. So even though it's not one of the statutory reserves, it's mandatory that you reserve for it anyway. That still stands, except for we've raised the threshold from $10,000 to $25,000. So it went from a very low threshold to a still very low threshold. That's going to include a lot of surprises for people. Hurricane protection. Let's talk about the disaster and uninhabitability reserve funding. So previously, the statute said that a condominium association, if a building was rendered completely uninhabitable, as determined by the local building official, those owners who were displaced by that ruling, the membership and the board could vote to have them cease paying the reserve portion of their assessments. In Florida, you always have to pay your assessments, no matter what. If I'm kicked out, I still have to pay my assessments. It's Florida law. But in this limited circumstance, if a natural disaster has come through and rendered your unit uninhabitable, the association could have determined to give you a break and say, well, you have to pay your operating expenses, part of your assessment, but you don't necessarily have to pay the reserve portion. Where that previously required a member vote, the law has now changed, and that is a decision that is going to be made entirely by the board. So if the board wants to cut a break to its displaced owners, the goal is to say, you don't have to pay your full assessment. You can use some of that other money to fund your hotel bills or whatever other expenses you've incurred as a result of being displaced. The DBPR jurisdiction has been expanded. This is going to be important for some people. Now the Division of Condominiums through the Florida Department of State has an expanded jurisdiction to handle complaints from owners. They can now, and theoretically, the division is being expanded in general. They've increased funding. They supposedly have increased personnel. Whether the money and the personnel are going to catch up with the legislature's goal is a question. But theoretically, they're going to be fully funded, fully staffed, and take a more active role in the administration of condominiums here in the coming years. If that happens, they are supposed to be able to handle complaints from owners related to the procedural completion of milestone inspections. So if your milestone inspection report came back, there's a deadline to make sure that all of your owners receive a copy of it. If you're not complying with that deadline, your owner can complain to the division.
Obliged to take what we know about the laundered money
or potentially fine you. We'll see if the division actually uses what is really a newfound fining power. Owners can also file complaints with the DBPR about completion of repairs required by the milestone. So you've had your milestone inspection done, At phase 2
Your
inspection
mail.
done, that says, oh, we've got work to do. This building's going to fall down around us. It's a death trap.
Ignoring
Fix
me.
it.
And you know how much
If
I
you
think
don't initiate those
Yes.
repairs within 365 days of your phase 2
Really?
report, that owner can go to the division and say, they're not fixing our building. It's going to fall down around us.
Thank you for
We're gonna
my
fix it.
I only use that as an excuse to come see
And in a
you.
way, that's great if the division does
Yes,
this,
you.
because it's going to avoid legal
Takes
action.
me back home.
The average lawsuit in Florida takes about 18 months from start to finish. So if we're talking about necessary repairs to the structure of your building, you don't want to spend a year and a half in court before finally.
You make a good
the
contact
association
this time in the
starts to
cage
make
is pending
repairs.
on, sure.
So the division theoretically will be much faster at processing those claims, have an administrative hearing, come back and then just order the association to get the repairs at least be done, if not completed by a certain deadline.
Right.
The division can now handle complaints relating to an association's failure to obtain insurance or bonds for people handling association funds. Obviously, we're familiar that associations under 718-111 are required to maintain insurance. Your governing documents probably have very specific statements about the type of insurance your association is supposed to have. 718-111 also says an association will use its best efforts to try and obtain that coverage, but that if you can't, it's okay. As long as if it's unavailable or completely unfeasible for you to have that coverage, you get the best coverage you can, and you're going to be protected under the statute.
No, I'm not
Well,
asking.
most owners don't know that. So I think this is going to be resulting in an influx of complaints to the division by owners going, hey, we don't have replacement coverage, or replacement cost value coverage for our roof, which is what our documents say. I can't, get a mortgage secured because we don't have the right coverage. Make my association get it.
I only care that
Well, I
you
think the
did.
division in that case is going to go, well, it's
I'm so
unavailable.
sorry
As a
for
result of the
interrupting.
current insurance market, you can't get RCV coverage
We are
for a
in a
roof that old.
conversation.
But at the same time, the owners now have the ability to lodge those complaints.
Will you please
And we'll see, I think, a lot more. I think primarily we're going to see a lot of insurance issues going through this process. Also, I'd comment on the fact that they can
We're talking.
lodge complaints with the division about
Well, I
bonds.
guess we're doing this here.
Most bylaws, or at least a
Mr.
good portion
Yes,
of
I know
bylaws,
your
usually
statement was
require
application.
that the treasurer be
The
bonded.
cover for Sunny Corinthia is having
Buy a bond for the treasurer that says if treasurer runs away with all your money, the bond kicks in, it provides
I've been
some
thinking a
sort of
lot about
security
it
for it.
lately.
I have seen that in almost every set of bylaws I've seen in the past few years.
You would hate
I
that.
have about 4 associations that have actually purchased that bond. Now, if you don't do that, an owner can complain and the division can come back and force you to get the bond. But in addition, you're going to be paying attorney's fees and
Can't talk to
perhaps
one
a
of them,
fine
so
or
we did the
some
next best
penalty
thing.
to do that. So I would encourage anybody to review their bylaws, make sure that if there is a bonding requirement for the treasurer or any other officer
You better
handling
tell them tough
association
plan.
funds, you actually go ahead and secure the bond as necessary.
But mom decided that's.
And I
She
think we're
was using you.
probably getting
She
close,
liked
but,
it. She didn't
each association in the state must also create an online account with the division by October 1st, 2025. And of course, that's the division of condominiums.
I remember that you
They
said.
do not have any capacity for you to create this account at the moment. Hopefully they will by October 1st, or it's going to be a lot like the
I'm
continuing
sorry, I
education
didn't-
requirements for directors, where they say you have to have it, but we're not going to approve any courses for you to actually satisfy
It's
this.
easier for you
In
to
fact,
watch.
they put a freeze on all education certification right now. I was hoping to have courses like this certified for continuing education credit. They sent us a nice letter back going, we're not giving credit for anything right now. So it's one of those things where the legislature has the great goals, but unfortunately they didn't talk to the division or the department, the DBPR beforehand. And so we'll see if it's actually in effect by October 1st or not. But if so, every condominium association in the state of Florida will have to have an account. We'll have to provide information. We don't know what information you're going to have to provide, but we do know that you'll have to update it within 30 days of the date that it changes. So a lot of mystery about that one, but again, something that every single condominium association is going to have to deal
I
with.
just didn't see you at the airport. I was with boys. Oh, my phone tonight.
I'll keep talking. Yeah, well, a lot of this stuff really is. I mean, they like to keep the division on their toes. They said in the last legislative session, they said, we're allocating all this money to the division. We're going to expand you. We're going to make sure you're funded. We're creating new positions. While they may have done that, I'm not certain. I don't believe the division has created or filled any of those positions. I don't believe they've actually engaged in any of this expanded power. The division now has the ability to levy fines. Basically, they can ticket associations. I am not aware of them having done that in the past year. We'll see. The division, it does wonderful work when it's fully staffed. Unfortunately, It hasn't been fully staffed for a
was
number of
just about
years.
to take my break.
The ombudsman
Are you here on
position,
official
which is
business?
integral, has
Or
been left vacant for 3 years, I
I see a
believe.
statement from a
Which
patient.
is the primary dispute resolution officer for the
Okay,
division.
for me.
For CAMs,
He's a
if
friend.
you are engaging in a CAM contract
These days
with
you're
an
going to see
individual
my
CAM or a CAM firm, their contract must include in 12-point font
Well, I have no
unwaivable
idea
language that says
why
the
we
CAM or the firm shall abide by all
It's-
professional
it's-
standards and record-keeping
I don't-
requirements
See,
imposed by
don't
Part 8 of
give me an
Chapter
update
468.
'cause
Specific language.
you're
That is the part of the statutes that is the
and
CAM
manager.
licensing
I was
statute.
just
So basically, their
wondering if
contract
there's
is going to say
anything
we have to do our job.
you can tell me.
Hope that's what their contract said to begin with.
Yeah.
They're doing this for legal reasons by
First
putting that
it's
language in a
doing great.
contract. Now, in addition
Just
to
why
being punished through the licensing organization, through the division, a CAM who violates their restrictions may also be sued for breach of contract. So it's providing a little additional security for associations to go after CAMs who happen to breach their duties. Something sounds in negligence, which you can't normally go after if you have a contract with somebody. Let's see here. Conflicts of interest. So when retaining a CAM, a CAM has to disclose any potential conflicts of interest, or they're going to face some potential penalties. What is a conflict of interest with a CAM? A CAM is it's going to be a few different things. A CAM or firm, including their directors, officers, persons, or anybody with a financial interest in the firm or their relatives, proposes to enter into a contract or does enter into a contract for services other than CAM services. The example I've been using is you hire a CAM, they also are the director of a landscaping company. If they're going to try to get you to use their landscaping company, this is a potential conflict of interest, and you're going to need to discuss this beforehand. They're going to have to disclose it. Compensation, if a CAM is going to get a referral fee for hooking you up with a vendor, they're going to have to disclose that as well. That's basically a kickback. You know, we don't want CAMs to take kickbacks if we can avoid it. If there's a potential conflict of interest and the value of the claim is greater than $2,500, this is the CAM who's getting a referral fee for setting you up with their vendor, and it's a $3,000 referral fee, which would quite frankly be lovely for all of us. That triggers a requirement for the association to then solicit third-party bids for that same vendor. Doesn't say you have to take the lowest bid, doesn't say you have to take another bid. It just says if your CAM is going to get that sort of kickback, you need to solicit the bids. You can ignore them and still go ahead and pay your vendor, pay your CAM. But again, we're talking about transparency here. We want everybody to be aware of these potential conflicts of interest. If there is going to be a conflict of interest that is disclosed to the association, it must be noted on the meeting agenda for the next board meeting. The agenda has to include a description of the activity, the possible conflict, and a copy of all related contracts and transactional documents. It's a lot of work. It might just be easier to find a different CAM under certain circumstances, but if you really love that CAM and they're really intent on making money off their side hustle, disclose it, make sure it's made available to the membership, and everybody's aware of all the extra money they're making off of you. And if a conflict is discovered and they didn't disclose it, so you've signed with the CAM, you signed with their landscaping company, and 2 years later you figure out they're the ones making all the money off of you, well, then the association has the ability to terminate the vendor contract as well as the CAM contract at the association's option. If you're still comfortable with them having concealed this from you, you can elect to go ahead and stay with them. I would suggest you probably shouldn't, because they're lying to you and trying to take your money without telling you, and that's a bad thing. But hey, it's out there. It's the board's decision.
Jim, a lot of information,
Yep.
really good. Hope there's no test.
Nope.
Immediately. But can we move to questions now?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for that. And
And I'll also stick around when we're done too, if there are any follow-up.
Okay. So board members, are there any questions, comments about Jim's presentation? Peter Fanning.
In making your bank records available to members, does the association have the right, does the association have the right to redact certain information like account numbers, routing numbers, et cetera?
You do, and I would. So the question, I think everybody probably heard it, is if you're making bank statements available in response to an official records request, does the association have the ability to redact that? Yes, account numbers And in fact, the statute has certain private information that has to be redacted from any official records response. That's pretty limited. It's like health records, social security numbers, but account numbers are one of those things where you'll at least want to just leave the last 4 exposed. You'll still want the owner to be able to identify, at least generally, which account the record pertains to, but you don't want to list the entire account number.
Great. And then just one comment. I got a phone call during this. I want to make sure everybody that's on Zoom is muted unless you're speaking. There may have been some feedback, but I hope that's fixed at the moment. Are there any other questions for members of the board? If not, any member reps here with a comment or a question? If not, Jim, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And
I'm brilliant. I do a great job explaining things.
Okay. Okay. And please, Jim, you're going to be here
Yeah, I'll stick
after.
around.
And
Yep.
okay. All right. And one thing I want to do acknowledge is Mayor Alpert has joined us. So Liz, thank you for coming. We're glad to see you. Moving on, new business, Jamie.
Yes. We actually have 3 new associate members. So Clark, you should be very happy. It's more money in the bank. So I'm going to start with our very first one, which is a platinum associate member, Fine Properties, Stacy Cole. I'm going to keep it to a minute, but I know you can. So
Here in Florida and Georgia, and I'm with Fine Properties.
and then yes. And then so we need to, do you want to, Patrick, do we make a motion, move all of them at the end till the end, like all of them at once? Okay. And then I have a new gold associate member, Leanne Borza.
Small leads to re-roofing. We're here to be a resource if you have any questions for your budgeting or any of your board meetings. We're welcome to come and explain everything that nobody really likes to talk about, but we're here to be a resource.
Thank you. Is Matthew here at all with, I don't know how to spell it, the grouping? No. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve all 3 associate members as new members in the appropriate categories.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd just like to say welcome and the importance of our associate members to make our meetings and DSCA's role in the community possible. So thank you very much and welcome. I have one other announcement to make. Payne Park Villages, which some of you may know in School Ave, and it would be in the very eastern quadrant of DSCA, has applied for membership and will be coming for approval or whatever we do next time. So that's a townhome complex of 150 or so. So we're going to be welcoming Payne Park Villages as another member here very, very shortly. On to old business, Bob and Patrick on the association survey status. And as you start to talk about that, for some of the people in the room who may not know what this is, could you give
as many of you know, we do a biannual survey of our members to go into depth, just everything having to do with the condominium. It gives the board members a barometer, I guess you could say, or a measuring stick on what's happening in other buildings. So it helps an awful lot, especially in the budgeting process. We've sent it out to 35 buildings. We've gotten about a third of those to respond, or what, 12. So we're getting there, but anything, if you can, especially this would be applicable to our building reps, could you check with your manager to see if they've in fact gotten the survey and if they have in fact filled it out, because it would really be a big help. We've been trying to call people and do everything we can to get people to participate, but sometimes you need a little prodding. So anything you can do to help, that would be great.
Is there some list that shows who's
who has and who hasn't? Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple comments here. Patrick, was your estimate that the average time that it took to fill this out was about 50 minutes?
It's ranging from about 30 to 50 minutes.
Okay, and people can start the survey and then stop and then restart, right? So if you don't have the time or incline,
Go to the end and click done.
right?
It saves everything and then they just log back in and tell it where they want to pick up and look there. We've also provided a link to a hard copy. They can print it out, old school way, and fill it in, and then go sit down online and do it, or email PDF of what they filled out hard copy, and one of us will use our fingers to enter it.
Good. And I can't overemphasize the importance of this. A couple years ago, we did this. What we're looking for, if we do it every other year and try and get trend lines, particularly with the storms and changes in events. I mean, this is for $250 a year, our membership of the member condos, this is an incredible benefit for the boards to look at as decisions are made. And we're doing it now in advance of the typical budget cycles for a lot of the condos. So please, everything we can do of all of your buildings, we'll be beating the bushes, trying to get as many as we can responding to this larger sample size, the better the information. And I should say, our policy is we're releasing the full results of this to only people that are filling out in fairness to the people who fill it out, that maybe an abridged version will be available later, but in the beginning, it's just going to be the folks who participate who get the full results.
Correct, and it's even more valuable because we now have 3 cycles from back 6 years of data on the cost, insurance, et cetera, to look at. Plus the demographic data in terms of size of building, age of building is included. And we can provide us a detailed spreadsheet to the board that you can slice and dice and do your comparisons. So the results can be very valuable to boards, and especially as we just heard, the environment's changing rapidly around us. We're
Right.
continuing to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And my thanks to Bob and Patrick for doing this. It's a fair bit of work. So more than a fair bit of work.
Hey,
So
Bob and Patrick, please remind me, when the survey went out to participants, were they told that if they don't participate, they're not going to get the results?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, master plan update, sir. Do you have a?
We learned at our last committee meeting that our chair has resigned as chair, and a member of the committee, Howard Davis. Our meeting went on late. There was lots of verbiage and no decision making. That's it.
Okay.
You have a question? Yeah.
Would you remind me and others how long this process is set up, and when there may be a final report of some sort resulting in a change to the comprehensive plan?
I can't answer that question.
It has no, it has no end date? It has no end date?
Not the way the committee is operating.
Oh, okay.
Let me chime in here. I watched the last meeting and I share some of your sentiments, Ken. I will say that City Manager Bullock attended a good part of the message. I have shared with him some of my thoughts on this. So my hope is with strong people like you, Jamie, and others, we can get this process back on track. But right now it's kind of wandering. I mean, there's no nice way to put it. Okay. Moving on to the next item, the city budget. As many as you will know, the city had 2 budget workshops last week. Yours truly attended all of those. As you probably know from reading the newspaper, a millage increase has been proposed by city staff and under consideration, I guess, by the commission for the stated purpose of replenishing reserves depleted due to storm damage. I don't have any totally specific, I have my own personal thoughts about some of the budget. I will say process-wise, I thought Dave Bullock did quite a nice job in managing the process here, depending on however you thought about some of the specifics. But it's obviously a tough year. Some projects need to be pushed out. I believe assessed values went up about 5.5%, if I'm not mistaken, down from about 9% the year before. So there's some increase, and looking ahead, maybe a lower increase next year is something that's probably appropriate to factor in. So if anybody has any questions on the board, I'm not sure I could answer them, but I was in
the
the
only thing to add, indicated on median price of a home in Sarasota for $365,000, which would raise their rate about $90.
$90. Yeah. So
Is this a permanent change or?
no, this is approved. Well, it's approved annually. I mean, okay, it was kept the same at 3 mills for 3 years, I believe. Now increased kind of to where it was 4 years or so ago, I believe. Okay. It was approved kept at 3 mills for 3 years. It's going back up to more or less what it was 4 years ago, I believe. Okay. Now, the next step on this is, I guess it comes back to the commission first week in September and is adopted middle of September. So that's kind of where that is. City manager search. It was stated at the meeting Monday that 3 firms have been identified and proposals requested for them to do the city manager search, and they're due back in about a week. So it's whittled down to 3 firms with a scope of their work and so forth. So further information on that could be available in the next couple weeks. Arts and Cultural Committee. Ken, could you have an update for us on the Purple Ribbon Committee and the Performing Arts Center?
Well, last month we talked about the report and what was in the report, but we didn't know at that point when the report would be presented to the City Commission, and we understand now it's August 18th. And I assume that the Commission will either accept or not accept the report, and that'll be the extent of it. I don't think there's a need for approval. That doesn't seem to be the right process. But anyway, with respect to the Performing Arts Center, there were some interesting comments from Dave Bullock during the recent budget workshop on July 29th. He said, and I quote, because I have the transcription here, I think we're in a good discussion phase with the Performing Arts Foundation about a new facility. So we're looking forward to being able to identify a path forward for the commission on the Performing Arts Center and its associated plan and costs. And I assume that's the implementation agreement and the costs that the commissioners were asking for. In addition, he also said that conceptually there are discussions going on about a parking garage in the Bay Park, which would have about 700 to 900 parking spaces, which is slightly less than what they would need according to the zoning code, but a major step forward, it seems, since we hadn't been talking about that up to now. and everybody was concerned about parking. So that's where we stand.
Let me add to that, if I may. I met with Mr. Bullock on a one-on-one week or 10 days ago. And on the financial side, I think there's two things going on because let's face it, a lot of this is about money. And there are, Mr. Bullock told me that he has sent out some of the existing financials to a third-party firm who he's worked with before, who I understand is going to take a closer look at some of the financial modeling. And there is a resident with significant Verizon experience who's stepped forward and is also trying to help with modeling of this and assumptions and so forth, whether it be inflation rates or TIF income and so forth. So it's my opinion that moving forward to this implementation agreement discussion at a city commission meeting, there's going to be a lot more information available for which the commission to make a decision. Financials, hopefully, maybe content, I mean, where the parking stands, because now 700 to 900 spots at the Bay Park, it was originally being discussed at 600 spots. So I don't know who's, moving this forward, but I think we're all looking forward to further discussions on this. And with the Purple Ribbon report in hand, which has been the missing piece possibly, that hopefully a greater discussion about it can be taking place.
I had one more.
Yeah.
And it's a cultural issue, and that is tomorrow the city planning board meets at 1:30, and the first item on the agenda, or no, the fifth item, excuse me, the fifth item on the agenda will be phase 2 of Selby Gardens master plan. And hopefully that will go quickly because they have by right the right to move forward with their plan. Hopefully there won't be any difficulty. They need at least 3 votes to go forward. So I think there are a couple of people who've recused themselves for various reasons from the voting. But anyway, so that should happen tomorrow afternoon.
Great, thank you, Ken. Jamie, Associate Events?
Yes, I mentioned last meeting rather, that we were going to try to put together a workshop surrounding development, because that seems to be the hot topic. But every time we send out a survey, everybody wants to know about development. And I promised David, I had an idea, get a developer, get somebody from the city, and get a community voice all in the same room. And I promised David it wouldn't get out of hand. So David agreed. And I'm really happy to announce, I don't know if you have a copy of this that you guys can put up, that we actually have the date locked down. It's October 16th. We have the location. It's going to be at the Sarasota Garden Club. And we actually have all of the speakers in agreement and locked down. I really do think this is going to be probably a record turnout. To get an actual developer to get in front of a bunch of people from downtown and talk about development is pretty bold. And I was pretty impressed that we got him to agree. And yeah, so this is going to be probably a record turnout. So I'm going to probably send out the e-blast somewhere around 8:18. Tomorrow I'll be reaching out to the platinum members, asking you guys if you use your table, if you want to use your table. I would highly recommend you respond fairly quickly. I do think this will be a record turnout and good exposure for you guys. And a huge thanks to Richard, who's recently joined the committee and has been a huge help to me getting some of these speakers locked down, along with David and Kathy. So you definitely want to sign up early for this one.
Mention some of the names because I think it's really good people.
Yeah, so we have Sadek Omar, who will be in charge of, what is the project? He's taking down the Zenith building, and it's...
It doesn't have a name. It's a
Okay.
86 unit condo.
Okay, so to have him put himself out there I thought was huge. We have Morgan Bentley for an attorney discussing land use. I think it's important for people to understand what people are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Steve Cover has graciously agreed to join us yet again, likes to punish himself apparently. Eileen Normile will be the voice of the community. I'm excited to have her on, and you guys remember she was our board president in 2020. and Brenda Patton with Berlin, Patton, and Ebling. Diana said, I always screw that up. Sorry, saw that, who you guys have known as moderated before. She's a fantastic speaker, great attorney. And Ray Collins will be joining us back to moderate and control the crowd. So he's got a tough job.
Thank you, Jamie. You did a fantastic job in planning earlier for this and getting the word out. Neighborhood grants.
That's a pretty brief update. I did talk to Nancy Kelly, and looks like we are going to try to apply for the grant A cycle. We don't really have a game plan quite yet on what we're going to do exactly, but it could very well be the annual members meeting. And I'll be writing that grant probably within the next month.
Okay, and then Peter Blanton, board member, is on Zoom. And Peter has been we're kind of championing on behalf of the board some initial input on the special events ordinance. And Peter and I talked earlier, input is due to the city staff in about 10 days. I wasn't here last month to hear the Jennifer Jorgensen presentation and comments, but let me tell you, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and we're not finished with DSCA comments at this point. But Peter, can you kind of take it away and give us a kind of a summary of where you are, what you've done, and some next steps?
Sure. Thanks, David. So, you know, in the board package, you saw the red line mock-up of the special events ordinance. What I had done before then was pull every special event application. And basically, I was trying to get a handle on how many block parties take place downtown. And block parties are basically evening affairs, sale of alcohol, closure of streets. And how late do they go? So if you look at the 12 months ending June 30th of this year, there were 24 block parties impacting 34 nights. And a lot of these block parties, obviously there were multiple day block parties. Many of them went to midnight. Many of them had tear down activities, removing the stage, etc., till 4 a.m. So, you know, this is a major quality of life issue for our downtown residents. I've given input to Jennifer Jorgensen. I think a lot of the bar owners have given input. And we have the first red line version, which will presumably be submitted to the city commission for the first reading. Net, it's like one step forward and 2 steps back. There's a lot of talk. Well, let me just tell you the positives. The events have to close. The operating component of the events have to close at 11 p.m. instead of midnight. So that's a good thing. As I said, tear down activities can continue on, and for some reason, there's no limit on how late those tear down activities can take place. So presumably, as before, 1 o'clock, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. There are some restrictions on the number of events that take place on Main Street, in the downtown core zoning area, and on Gulfstream. Limits in terms of consecutive events and limits of a number of events per month. However, excluded from those calculations are recurring events. So if you had a Cinco de Mayo party last year, you can have the same Cinco de Cinco de Mayo party this year. And that is grandfathered, if you will. So all the events, basically all the private bar-related events get grandfathered, assuming the entity stays in business. And city events, city co-sponsored events are excluded from many of those calculations. So last year there were 7 Fresh Fridays. This year there'll be 9 Fresh Fridays. Well, those don't count in any of the calculations. So the net is there's, you know, the rules may hinder future special events. Those that aren't already grandfathered, those that are not so-called recurring events. And that is good news, but basically it kind of locks everybody else in because this is now valuable real estate. And if you had an event, you can call it a recurring event and continue to have your, you know, Halloween party for the end of time, till the end of time. So, there was another change, which is the maximum decibel level. Now, it is currently 100 decibels, the maximum anywhere. That was changed to 85 decibels, but as measured as 100 feet from the source. So where does that come from? Well, basically, that is the same methodology as applied to specified entertainment districts in a few places in Florida. So, for example, in Tampa and Ybor City, they have that rule. So it's a rule for like outdoor concerts and entertainment districts, which I don't think the downtown neighborhoods are. And if you look at Orlando, they also have a similar provision, which is 85 decibels, but they measure that at 50 feet or more. And it's the lesser of the 50 feet or the distance to the property line. So this provision doesn't have any of that. So basically, you're going to have louder noise permitted in the downtown mixed-use, heavily residential areas than in Orlando's specified downtown entertainment area. So, you know, I think it needs a lot of work. The other good thing is, and I'm not sure everyone knew this, but basically all the block parties were filed by a 501c entity, basically a merchant group. So, you know, Melvin's, Classico, Gator Bar, they all paid nonprofit fees for their block parties. And given that we're going to have to raise taxes, that's a concern. It appears that they're trying to close that loophole that I had pointed out to the special events department. So we'll have to see, but you know, anyway, it's I would say very much a work in progress, and I would say disappointing at this point.
Peter, you have submitted a list of questions to city staff that you've
Yeah, I
identified.
submitted it to the staff that has created the red line version, you know, Jennifer Jurgensen and her associates. I want to verify that I've read this correctly. But you know, I think I have. But anyway, so I have a list of questions. I mean, the other bottom line issue is, unlike every other community in the state of Florida, there is virtually no avenue to have these appealed to the city commission. So if as I said, in most other communities in Florida, if you want to have a certain block party, whether it's the level of sound, the duration, etc., it has to be approved, not administratively, which is how it's basically done here, but you need city commission approval. And I think that's a reasonable approach because our elected officials should be able to decide what's in the best interest of both residents and bar owners and, look at the big picture instead of administrators who basically have no wiggle room. They, if you check the boxes, and for example, everyone's been checking a box saying they're a nonprofit and paying lower fees, then that goes through. So, I think the philosophy is wrong. And like in so many other situations, we're at wide variance to best practices throughout the state of Florida. We have our own unique, system of administrative rules in this town for some reason.
Okay, so Peter, to be continued, and
Yes.
thanks for your work on this. A couple comments just overall. It's important to get our arms around this for a number of reasons, including some we made mention of the new Zenith project. So we're going to have new condo buildings downtown, right at the epicenter of some of these issues. And I can see these are not going to, cards and letters will come in to DSCA 5 years from now saying, why aren't you doing something about this? So I have reached out to some of the new developers, encouraging them, they're going to have skin in the game on this for their future residences. The other thing I have done is I would encourage us to do, Chief Touche said his police budget gets hit with about $250,000 a year in the city-sponsored events. So let's think about this not only in disruption, quality of life, economic benefits from this, but the economic hit with the police department and so forth. Final comment, windows. And when I'm talking to developers, new developers, I'm encouraging them to consider windows because we can't put all of the pressure on trying to control special events or a Harley driver. It's not going to happen. The Harley driver is going to be there. And if somebody's building, I would say, $4 million plus condo units for them to consider voluntarily. I don't think the city can require them to go above code, but boy, if I were them, I'd consider somewhat better windows and advertise that and price it in. So we're coming at this multiple ways. Peter's good work, all sorts of input from affected parties. It's very clear DSCA wants a vibrant, lively, whatever, but trying to thread the needle on the right thing to do is what we're trying to accomplish. So thanks to Peter Blanton and others involved, but we've got more work to do and counting on the commissioners to try and find a path on this. I think that's all special events for the moment. Transportation Committee, I guess that's me. In the budget that I mentioned before, the Boulevard of the Arts and the 10th Street project are continuing to be recommended in there. The grant that was $12 million. And now there's specific mentioning of undergrounding of utilities along Boulevard of the Arts. So that's some good news. I did make full disclosure during public comment period as a resident, not representing DSCA, some comments about potential looking at Fruitville as an opportunity for being included in the budget, which it isn't. So that's kind of work in progress. And I don't want to take time to go into that, but that continues to be a project that DSCA 6 years ago expressed support for, and as a quality of life and incredible economic driver potential. Moving on to zoning and green space, the Hyatt redevelopment, if you've noticed, the demolition process is in the early stages of tearing that building apart, which I understand by the end of the year, maybe, I don't know, or beginning of next year. And we're having discussions about streetscape treatment that, again, we won't go into, that I've been working with Patrick and others on.
Bill, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
just point out, Bill Deal, who is a member rep, is Condo Member is out of town. Did want to make notice that the site plan for the Hyatt was approved 9 days ago, and tomorrow will be the 10th day. So any appeals will have to be filed by tomorrow. The site plan includes the city's transportation department's streetscape, which includes removal of all trees in the median and removal of all palms on the south side. Instead of taking the vision from the Bay Park, which managed to move several large trees and plant several large ones. So it's up to the residents, I guess, to get answers to file an appeal. So that's where that one stands.
Thank you, Patrick. 1260 Palm. Today, it's my understanding, is the deadline if the Obsidian 1260 folks want to appeal the decision confirmed by the city commission here 30 days ago. So it's my understanding today, by the end of the day, if the development folks want to appeal that to the 12th Circuit Court, that we're kind of at the deadline, and I have no way of predicting what will take place. The 777 Palm project across from Selby, I wanted to acknowledge, maybe through you, Mayor Alpert, the good work of staff who today at the DRC in their project were able to work with the developer on an increased setback off of Mound, similar to what was done at the Saravella. So it's going to be about 20 feet. And I'm just so pleased that they're increasing the amenity strip and more trees, more setback from a pretty darn busy street. So it's my hat's off to staff and FDOT and Kimley Horn and whoever else was involved in that. I think it's an example of where, you know, we can try and develop a win-win. And the Zenith site we've talked about a couple times. They are doing a voluntary community workshop on the 12th. And I think that the developer there has reached out to me and others and is doing a good job in outreach, and we'll see where that is. They've applied for a site plan at this point. That's all I've got. Bay Park Conservancy, Bob.
They are making some major headway over there. They've just moved the Bay has actually moved their general offices into the library building. It's been completed and it is gorgeous. I went there yesterday, brought them some cookies, and they seem to enjoy those. But anyway, that's working out really well. They'd like to actually give us an update here in the fall. Hopefully we can work that out. But there's a lot of projects. One thing that did come out is that they have coming to terms. I guess they're working on the contract for the restaurant, and that has been picked to be the Venice Pier Group, which is the Sharky's Fins people, which obviously have a good working relationship with the Bay already, and that they're operating the concession there already. But that is something they're negotiating on. So they're hoping to have that started by the end of the year, I think, and then be completed by the fall of 26. That's going to be where the anchor is, or was, or I guess still is. I don't know.
As far as CCNA goes, I I don't have a report. CCNA doesn't meet a couple months of the summer, and I'm not aware of anything. As far as the Rosemary District Association goes, in the Rosemary, a project at the McCowan site, if you can picture the McCowan parking lot site near McCowan, there is continuing discussions there about a elderly housing project with public parking and with retail. So that's being considered by the Housing Authority Board. Peter. Okay.
I think you went right by the
Oh.
Health and Safety Committee.
Okay.
I know special events
Oh,
get
oh,
folded
oh,
underneath that.
Oh,
but-
okay. Let me finish my remarks and
Okay.
then you come in. So that's under discussion by the Housing Authority, and that would provide potentially some much needed future parking for the Rosemary District and overflow for the park area. The final thing, then I'll get to you, is the Rosemary Association in combination with the Nod Palagar are looking at the potential of bringing back the Rosemary night markets on occasion, which I think a lot of us would agree is, was over there for 3 or 4 years and then COVID or whatever stopped it, but it is being investigated as trying to bring those back. And the comment here is we want to make sure that this special events ordinance, even though it's crafted to deal with some purely core downtown issues, does not have an unintended consequence of, trickling and looking at events in other parts of the city that, while we want to mitigate and control and moderate noise on, say, Main Street, we don't want to mess up legitimate, fairly innocent results and make those onerous or whatever approval-wise for other parts of, whether it be Gillespie or whatever. And Peter, I apologize. So back to you.
Just quickly on the City Watch pilot program, the pilot continues to gather data from a limited number of walkers. As of July 30th, there have been as of July 30th, there have been approximately 103 reported concerns that have been received by the Click to Fix, with 38 closed since the end of May. And of the approximately 103, several have been referred beyond the purview of the Click to Fix. This is presenting a rather administrative nightmare for me. In my office, I share with my wife. I don't let her close the door because the door on the reverse side is covered with yellow stickies, which indicate 103 events, 38 blue stickies that have been closed out, and the difference being the status of the difference and where they are. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to build this report in some meaningful way on a monthly basis, but it's been a lot of fun. Some of the other closed examples that why something gets reported to Click to Fix, and it gets shoved over to code compliance. Well, that's not, it's a code compliance, the brush growing into the sidewalk or things like that. Or street lights and wires are FPL, so that doesn't fit on the Click to Fix. But we have established a nice relationship with FPL, and they've been out attending to our concerns, and some of the completed because of FPL went out and changed street lights, took care of wires, changed out a street pole or whatever else. So it is working pretty good, and we'll continue to gather the data and then bring the committee back together again after the summer, September, October, and see how we're going to go forward with this and completing our goal, because I have no idea how we're going to meet the first 2 objectives. The homeless committee, that too has been on a hiatus during the summer. It'll start again in September with an agenda to review the status of progress being made as indicated by the point in time count, the most recent one. It's under review, and there's some discussions going back and forth between Suncoast Partnership to End Homelessness, and HUD. We're trying to figure out some of the effects of policy changes being promoted administratively with the new leadership in Washington with regard to funding and program accessibility. I also would recommend, and I'm attaching to this report, a article from the Wall Street Journal on August 3rd entitled "Seismic Shift Ahead in Homeless Policy. The United States is taking a sharp turn in how it addresses homelessness after the president ordered a tough new approach that rejects the longstanding housing first template in favor of using his deportation model and just putting the people into a deportation facility only for homeless." So we'll be addressing that issue too. So that is all coming forward.
Jamie, do you have some?
So as you guys know, platinum and gold members have speaking opportunities at the end. So if you guys could just hang out just a couple more minutes, we do have 4 of them here tonight. I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. If Michael, you want to come up with Century Insurance, or Stan, whatever.
Michael Weiser with Century Insurance. I'm an insurance agent, commercial risk advisor here in Sarasota. Our offices just off Community Ridge at 41. Obviously, you all deal with insurance, and that's one of the biggest items on your list. We're in a good market right now. We're hopeful the next 126. So if you need any questions, if you're happy with your agent, I want to hear from you. If you are unhappy with your agent, I'd love to take your call.
Thank you. I told Dee Dee and Tony I would give an update on Bird Key Yacht Club. So I know you guys have probably been following the saga with them being able to tear down. They finally got approval. They have approval from the city to proceed on July 21st. So they have now officially shut down all of their food and beverage, and they're preparing for a September 2nd construction startup. So they're hoping to reopen in their target date is December 2026. And in the meantime, if you are a member or you're considering membership, they are offering some events that are outside of Bird Key Yacht Club. They've got a whole nice lineup, and they will be recruiting new members. So, and then we have Amy from Berg Simpson.
You might know Deanna Sada, who's our partner and shareholder of the firm. She will be speaking next month, so be sure to check that out. We do cover the whole state of Florida, so construction defects are all over the place as it's been built. We're seeing a lot of water intrusion, stucco, leaks, cracks, everything like that. So if you have any issues, give us a call. We do free consultation.
Thanks, Amy. And last but not least, Steve, Hotwire Communications.
Jamie, thank you. David, thank you. Happy to announce that Hotwire has signed Bay Plaza as our latest member of the Hotwire family. We'll be receiving high-speed internet and television services in the next 8 months. I do have to announce tonight, we are, as all of you know, we are a provider of high-speed internet, television, and telephone services exclusively to HOAs, condo associations, and senior living facilities. And I add senior living because this will actually be my last DSCA meeting. We will continue as a platinum sponsor. I've been here for over 3 years, but I've been tasked to run our new senior living division. So I'll be moving on out of the residential area, and 2 of my colleagues, and I'll be sending you information to update, will take my place. But I do again want to thank DSCA for what it has done in helping us grow in Greater Sarasota. It has been a very rewarding experience, and notated by our executive team as to the value that you brought to us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's everybody. I don't think there was anything.
Okay, with that said, member representatives, Jim Lample, are there any member reps who have comments, concerns, questions that you would like to mention? I know David Rovine and I exchanged, he's observed at his building drop in water pressure and asked if others are just a quick straw poll. Okay, so, and Jim,
On that water issue, we are doing lab tests now on the water coming into our building. The initial water report that we got, done by an expert lab, had some concerns about the quality of the water, which brought us to what's called phase 2 testing. And soon we'll be receiving that report. We have concerns in that building about pressure, about the sediment that's in the mains that the city is not addressing. And this might bring that to a head.
What
building are you in? Mark.
okay, to be continued, but David brought this up just hours ago, and it's something, Patrick and
I would just remind that in the past, we have maybe in a small group, the committee invited like the utilities manager to come address. So that's something that we can pull together a meeting like that for multiple committees as opposed to doing it at a board meeting.
oh, okay, Jim Lampel, is he unmuted?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Jim.
Yes, I wondered if Peter could also add to his report to the board the item on the special events addressing how the city surveys the addresses to clear for 2/3 of the addressees for special events. So you get one vote per address, and it doesn't reflect how many residents are in that address.
Yeah, so another peculiar aspect of our city ordinance relating to special events is the survey that Jim mentioned, which is you need 2/3 of the impacted buildings. And buildings, I mean literally buildings, not residents. So a eyeglass shop that may have 1 or 2 employees and it'll be closed anyway for a evening block party counts the same as the 200 residents in the mark. They have equal voting power. Now, that is very peculiar. The only place I've seen that applied in Florida is with a suburban block party. So a suburban block party, if they want to close the street, they have to get a supermajority of the homeowners. So each house, if you will, representing a family gets 1 vote. And that makes sense because, all homes are sort of equal in regard to the ability to comment on whether the street should be closed for a suburban block party. It does not make sense in a mixed-use area where we have some high occupancy condos and apartments and businesses that won't be open. So that was in the and this relates to street closures for under three days, which is basically all events. And they haven't changed that. So that was in the prior ordinance. It didn't make any sense. It's a misapplication of suburban block party rules to a mixed use area. And it's in the current version as well. And it's just, it's silly.
Thank you, Peter. I think Peter's done a great job of presenting what's going on with this special permit ordinance. Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Okay, wrapping up. Next month, Jennifer Romanicki, CEO of Selby, will be our guest speaker, and I've also confirmed for October, interim city manager Dave Bullock will be our guest. So we hope to get from Jennifer an update on what's happening at Selby. And with Mr. Bullock, the budget would have been passed as of October 1st, and some of the dust settled, and possibly further discussions about the Performing Arts Center. So we'll be really, we hope, timely to have Dave as our member. So, and surprise, surprise, we're going to end early, even with me chairing this thing. So with that said, unless anybody has anything else, let's consider us adjourned and have a glass of wine. Thank you.